from the NBA that has been so crucial in making sure that our game becomes global alongside our national federations. And also, I'd like to thank those without whom we would have a little bit more difficulties in having the right resources to move forward and to invest into basketball. That is certainly our partners. If I start with the oldest one, Mr. Tamiaki from our ball sponsor since the Los Angeles Olympic Games. It was the very, very first commercial partner that FIBA had. It was something that back in the days was felt as evil. You cannot have money from corporate companies. And finally, his father, Mr. Tamiaki, and our former Secretary General found a way to have the first ever sponsor since 1984, and a sponsor and a partner and a friend and a family friend still today. So I welcome also Mr. Tamiaki from Molten here, but also our newlywed friends, our Philip Blatter from Infront, and all those that accompany us, whether it is Nike and others who are now traveling together on this long journey and making basketball the most popular sport around the world. And finally, to end that journey, and this is where I'm also very pleased to see, is that we've got in my view, a 10-year journey, and probably even more, but let's start at 10. And in 10, it's 2028. It is around the games in Los Angeles, and we have here the chairman of the Los Angeles Organizing Committee, Mr. Casey Wasserman. Thank you, Casey, for being here with us and starting this great journey towards those games. So that's about the objective. It's a journey. So, of course, if it's a journey, I think you will understand why Xi'an. Xi'an being the start of a journey in the ancient times of the Silk Road. It's a start today of a new journey with the Belt and Road initiatives. It's a start where China meets West and West meets China, and where I believe the exchange of expertise and experience can only be extremely fruitful for all of us in order to make basketball bigger and a better sport. So thank you once again, Xi'an, for being host to this event. And why in China? Well, China, we've got the World Cup coming up, and it is next year. It's in 8 other cities, which is also why we're happy to be in a 9th city, which we can add as a host city for this summit around the World Cup. And because for us, we want to leave a legacy with this World Cup. We want to leave a legacy for the Chinese basketball family, and we want to leave something that you can nurture and can bring you back to some heights, or bring you to new heights in 2028. In 2028, curiously enough, today it's 10 years since we had the Olympic Games in Beijing. In 2028, it will be 20 years since we had the Games in Beijing. And in 2008, the very first game was China-United States in the preliminary round of the Olympic basketball tournament. Well, who knows what will be the last game in 2028, that final in Los Angeles 2028. Where will China be in those games? We probably might know where the US will be, but we do hope that China will have more than just that very first game against the United States in 2028. So that's one other reason why we're here in Xi'an, why we're here in China. Now, basketball has been moving along. We do not deserve so much credit for what we've been doing. It's been done by many people back 100 years when the game was created by Mr. Naismith. And since then, the rules have changed. Professionals entered the Olympic Games. The game plan of the coaches have become more complicated. The tactics used. The game has become more fast, more physical. We have very athletes today. It is certainly not the same as at the beginning in the 1930s when FIBA was created, and when even my little country, Switzerland, which is, by the way, even smaller than Xi'an, played in Olympic Games or in World Championships and in European Championships. Today, it's about physicism, athleticism, big players, and I also want to welcome those players that are here. Some of them have played in the NBA, some here we have AK-47 sitting in the room, but we have very well-known and former celebrities and players here from the Chinese national team, and I also want to thank them for being here with us, and maybe you can give them an applause, and maybe you can stand quickly up, please. As the game grows, we just finished the World Championship for women. All continents were represented in the quarterfinals. That is a great success for the work of the National Federation. That means that also the women's game is becoming truly global. And finally, just in 1 year, we'll have the first World Cup here, and in 2 years, for the very first time, we will have 3-on-3 in the Olympic Games in Tokyo. So, what is it to say? It's to say that this game is clearly a global game. It's a global game because of the efforts of all of you, because of the efforts of FIBA itself, of the national federations, of clubs, leagues, of the NBA. Today, basketball is a language spoken in every single corner of the world, on the smallest, tiniest islands to the biggest country like China or India, and through to some medium and more strange countries like Switzerland. It is a global game. It is the first sport worldwide in indoor sport. Now, we are trading only outside against our good friends and brothers from football. Now, we know this country loves football. We prefer basketball. And we have a vision. We want basketball to become the most popular sport in the world. And I think that we're on the good road to make this happen, starting from here in Xi'an and ending up in LA in 2028. Now, at the base of this, there's a lot of things. But clearly, when you want to see, and I'm not specifically pointing out particular countries, but when you want to see a game, a sport, whatever, growing, the driving force is when the name of the country is written here, in any sport. And basketball is no different. The national team is the driving force. Now, of course, you don't have a national team without many things behind, but it is the driving force. It talks to the core fans, but it talks also to people that usually may not follow basketball on a day-to-day basis. It grows the base of those that love basketball, and it follows you if your national team is successful. That is also why, when you see now in a new format that qualifies for next year's World Championship, we have 80 countries that play simultaneously in 80 countries around the globe, in 5 continents, that try to qualify for the World Cup. That is a huge exposure for basketball, something that is difficult to replicate unless it is a national team. So as in football, national teams are core. So what's the role of a national federation? Well, it is certainly to protect, promote, and drive this national team. This is key. If you don't do that, if our national federations don't work, then we're not going to be successful, and we won't be the most popular sport in the world. Now, this doesn't happen from one day to another. It requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of discussions. It requires going over some of your fears, some of your obstacles, some of the difficulties that you will face, whether you are in China, whether you're, again, in Switzerland, or whether you are in Mali, or whether you are in South America, or in Papua New Guinea. It's all the same. The problems might look small, or might look very big, even on a small island, but they are not different from a bigger country that faces the same kind of problems. Now, there are, in my opinion, a number of success factors that are extremely important to keep in mind and try to work around. They're not exclusive, it is not the Bible, but certainly those are quite crucial in order to make sure that the National Federation can be successful. First, if you don't do things with a little bit of passion and fun, it's not going to work. You need energy. Energy, motivation. You need to wake up in the morning and say, I want to do basketball, wants to be the most popular sport. I want to drive it wherever I am, whatever the problems are. It's about that ball. It's about taking that ball, dribbling down the court, and going and scoring. And by the way, this is 28 meters. By chance, this is exactly the length of a basketball court at the Olympic Games. So from here, probably it's about a three-pointer to that one basket. And from here, I'm not able to do that. Now, energy and motivation is a must, but it's not everything, of course. We've got a lot of energetic people. Everyone that is here was very motivated to come to Xi'an. Thank you very much for making this long trip and for being in this wonderful city with us. It's also about having a plan and executing it. It's not different from what you request and require from your coaches. You go in a game, what do you want? A game plan. And having a game plan is key. No game plan, you don't know where you're going. And that is not different from being leader in a national federation. A plan is extremely important. Too often, we see things just being driven by election processes, by political processes, by, well, I have to stay in place and I'm going to have elections in 4 years, so I'm going to try to survive, and how can I be re-elected? That's not about it. It's about having a plan that goes even beyond your own cycles. It's about putting in place a stable structure that can drive and execute that plan. And the plan is key. And when you see national federations that have had a plan and that have executed it properly, you've seen them successful. And I can just name a few of them. You can have like Turkey, who started in 2002 dreaming of a World Cup, that then ended having it in 2010, and suddenly moving up the ranking from place 50 to the top 10, or moving women's basketball at the same rate, whether it's in Spain or in Turkey, or other countries that have similarly executed a great plan. Now, you've got motivation, you've got a plan, you want to execute. And then you look around your windows out of your office and you see plenty of basketball stakeholders, all of them having a different plan, a different idea, and a different objective. That is suddenly the most difficult obstacle that you will face. How to make all of them believe in your plan. But it is crucial. It's about respecting all your stakeholders. It's about integrating them. It's about bringing them into your house. And that is the most difficult. As the game grows, the interest of the individual stakeholders will grow. And they might not always be the same that you have. So this is something that is extremely important to work on. Players, first and foremost, they need to be protected. But then it's about clubs, it's about the leagues that want to grow, that may have a little bit of a short-term view than you as a national federation leader that wants to have a vision in 10, 20 years down the road and be Olympic champion with your country and have basketball the most popular in your country. That might not be exactly the same as the league or the clubs that are trying to figure out what their budget is for the next year, or how they can survive and win the championship in your country. That is extremely important, that find the right balance between all those stakeholders. But these stakeholders are not just the basketball stakeholders. There's other people around. As the world grows, it's not the same everywhere yet, but as it grows, you have to deal with media, you have to deal with broadcasters, you have to deal with sponsors, you have to deal with your authorities. It is absolutely crucial that all these people share your vision and are an integral part of how you execute that particular strategy that you have devised. So for doing that, you do need and require the support of the authorities. Or in some places, it's going to be the support of your national Olympic committees. Without them, it's not going to work. There's always a tendency of saying sport is independent, autonomous. Yes, that's nice and beautiful as long as we can manage our things by ourselves. But at the end of the day, we live in a society, we live under the local laws, and we do require infrastructure, we do require support, and that does not work without having the government supporting you. This is also why we couldn't be here if we didn't have the support of the Ministry of Sport or of the city of Xi'an. Then, nothing more important than investing in our youth and our coaches. Vice President Hamanyang has said it. Sometimes the lack of certified trainer is a big handicap for many countries. So this is a crucial area. Coaches, it's not just about coaching the basketball skills. There are two things. One is you need to be good at coaching the basketball skills, but another one is you need to instill the virus. You need to instill that passion for basketball. And where does it come from first? The parents maybe for their kids, but the second place, it's going to be the coach. The coach for your youth kids. It's there is where you will fabricate your future talents that will one day be either NBA champion or champion with their national teams or champion local champions. That is key. Invest in these coaches and invest in the youth. The youth is going to be our future. We're already past today. And imagine in 10 years from now, we will be more than past. So we have to prepare the next generation, not only on the court, but also off the court. Another important piece that is clearly a success factor for national federations that have looked at it in the best possible way is when you look beyond your own borders. This is something not always very simple, and probably here is a critical example of what is necessary at times. Nobody has the best recipe. It's not about copying, pasting what your neighbor is doing. It's not about copying, pasting for here with our good friends from the CBA or from China of what happens in the United States. China is not the US is not China. There is no easy solution. But if you go out or if you meet places like this with others, you can learn, take the best practices and try to adjust them to what you need in your own country. But you need to participate also. You need to play at full strength with your teams abroad. It's not just about national teams, it's also that your clubs go out, play with other clubs at the best. They don't go with juniors playing in an international tournament where professionals are playing. That's disrespectful to the others. That's not what will be helpful for those juniors. But it's important that they play, all of them, at club level and national team level, at international level. It's extremely important. You may think, if you stay at home, that you're the best at home. Well, try to go out and play against your neighbor. If you lose by 40 points, something's wrong. If you lose by 100, something's very wrong. So I think that's extremely important that you internationalize our national federations. You look, you go out, and you learn, and you try to see where you fit in the world ranking, and not just in a continental ranking. Winning the Asian Championship is a fantastic achievement. China has won all the medals at the Asian Games this just past month. Congratulations, whether it's in 3-on-3 or in 5-on-5. But if you look at the world ranking, China's still not yet there. It's in the 40th for the men and somehow in the 20th for the women. So there's still a lot of countries in front of China on the world ranking level. The next part that is increasingly important is stability. Stability is a number of things. First, change in leadership every year, every 2 years, or every 4 years is not always good. Sometimes it's necessary, and change is certainly also good, but at the end of the day, if those that are driving the strategy change too often, that's not going to bring you very far if the strategy is then not continued or is discontinued and changed. Second, it's about maintaining that focus on whatever has been decided, even if change in leadership happens. The era in which we live is clearly and very importantly digital. It's digital for a number of reasons. 3, probably, one would say, for basketball. One is because the youth of these days are very much attracted by digital, esports, and the use of new technologies, the mobile phones. Many of you are certainly having your mobile phones in your hands right now, and that is clearly a trend these days. So that's something that we have to embrace and try to see. You can embrace it and use it for having, at the end, better skilled players, because you can use technology to improve the skills of the players and of the coaching of your players. You can use technology to bring new kids to your game, whether it is playing NBA 2K, whether it's doing other things, whether it's following your superstars through the technology. It is equally important to attract new fans, and technology allows you to do that. One thing which is extremely important, sport should always stay the first. Now, that might be sometimes not simple, because your stakeholders inside your own family might have different view. A club or a league may have a very commercial orientation, being a for-profit organization. But you as a national federation need to be remembered and remind that it is about the sport. We need money, yes, but we need to invest it and develop it into sports. And if some people in our family using basketball to make money, that's not a problem in itself. If you can coordinate and make sure that whatever they invest into the sport is going to grow globally, your sport in a particular country. And finally, I think what is also important is we should change ourselves. And we should continue to evolve unless we want to be changed. And that is absolutely clear. The structure that FIBA has since 1932, it's not going to work in 2028. It has to be adjusted. It has to be adopted to the modern world. It has to be put in a place, and that happens also at national federations. Reinvent yourself. Find new ways of being organized. Integrate all your stakeholders. Maybe give up some of the power that you felt you had alone. Share it with your stakeholders. Bring in new disciplines, like we did with 3-on-3, even if it shakes up the tree, if it shakes our beliefs, if it feels, well, we are not anymore so omnipuissant, as they say in French. It's important that we keep evolving, because others will evolve faster than us, and we will not reach the goal of being the most popular sport in the world if we don't evolve with the modern world. Now, with these 10 success factors, is there a recipe? You follow all 10, will you be successful? Well, not necessarily. Unfortunately, that is also dependent on, will we have a generation of talents in our country? Do we have all the stakeholders really aligned, having the same vision? So there's a lot of complications into that. But certainly, there are good ways of doing things. It's not very dissimilar as when you study economics and they say, how do I invest? Well, diversify. You have to do this and this and this. There's some very normal processes that, on average, if you do them well, you'll be successful also in investment. It's not very dissimilar in running a national federation. There's a few things which are crucial and important, but success does not come automatically. You have to work for it. You have to fight for it. You have to continue to try to do your best for it. Success is not just because I turn 10 keys and that's it. I will be successful as a national federation or as a national team. There's many things that we don't control and that will continue to be on our way towards success. National federations are today organized in different ways. There's the extreme where it is somehow all for one, or everybody is on his own. That might be a system which you may know a little bit in the United States. USA Basketball fields a national team, and many other stakeholders are autonomously, independently organizing basketball at all possible levels. And then there's the opposite, where you would have a very centralized way. Could be here sometimes, like in China, it's moving, it's changing, or in France, where it's a very centralized system with delegation of powers down to the regions. These are two extremes. Then in the middle, there's some hybrid models where leagues and clubs are more independent under the national federations or on the side of the national federation. And this hybrid model is probably the one that will dominate for the years to come. But one or the other or the middle, none of them is necessarily either the best or the worst. It's a matter on how in your country you have to be organized. If you go to the United States, and you think that everything is working so complicated and differently, nobody controls anything except your own territory, well, then just think that the National Federation, USA Basketball, may be only fielding the national team as its main responsibility, but and the league may be doing its own, like the NBA, but it's the NBA that finances US basketball. That doesn't happen everywhere else. Everywhere else, it's fight. The league is doing its way, doesn't want to take care of national teams, and it's certainly not financing the national team. So you see that in all models there are pros and cons, and it's everyone's obligation to find the right system of organization. Now, once you've seen success factors, the models that exist, what's the best for China? Well, that's probably not for me to say. That's more for the friends here of the Chinese basketball family to discuss, to learn from others, and to see what is the best. What I can say is that we have a World Cup coming up next year. But the World Cup is not an end line. It is not the objective. It's just part of a journey. And that's how we in FIBA think China should look at the World Cup. A part of a journey towards greater success, towards hopefully greater success, up to a plan of 8 to 10 years. As we know, in all sports, you need time to create the generation of talents. You need time to create structures. You need time to reorganize. And this country is reorganizing itself, and so is the CBA with Yao Ming at its head. The numbers here are impressive. 300 million and plus players, 900,000 basketball courts, and I'm not counting all the cage courts of basketball that are in urban streets, outside door in every single village, not only here in big cities like Xi'an, but in every single village across the country. And I want to thank the ministry in particular for having put them all over the place. As I said earlier, the world ranking may not be yet where our friends in China want it to be. And I think that the journey towards the next year and then towards 2028 Olympic Games, I think, is a rich journey of surprises and hopefully of greater success for our friends here in China. What we want is China to take the rightful place among the top teams in the world on a consistent basis. This has happened in other places of the world, and you will hear later from some panelists how they have had a strategy, a game plan, and have executed it and have been able to be successful, whether it's in 3-on-3 or whether it is in 5-on-5. Now, it's not just about basketball, men's basketball, or 5-on-5. It's certainly what drives the economics of everyone. It's certainly what helps us promote other sides of the game, but it is not just about that. Yes, we have a new qualification system which helps us drive attention, which helps every national federation to work with its stakeholders, and where FIBA also invests several dozens of millions of dollars in this cycle to help this new qualification system to happen. But it's also about women's basketball. It's about youth basketball, or it's about 3-on-3. 3-on-3 is not a strange animal that is there in a family. It's now our second discipline. It's a new discipline that is going to be at the Olympic Games. We will have 6 more medals to give out to new countries that can use 3-on-3 as their best practice for basketball. Not everyone can field the 5-on-5 team, but everyone can field the 3-on-3 team. There were 38 national teams in 3-on-3 at the Asian Games, just in Asia, 38. There's 44 countries, and 38 of them fielded a 3-on-3 team. That's good. That has not happened before 3-on-3. Then it's not just basketball. It's also more than basketball. We are fortunate to be a sport that helps not just growing our new talents, but also helps in other areas, growing new leaders. And as any sports, we are giving our contribution to a better society through the foundation that we have, but also through other activities in corporate social responsibility, or if we follow some of our leagues or our clubs or the NBA with their NBA Care, it's not just always about the game, it's also about making a better world out there. And that is equally important. You're a national federations, you may concentrate on results, you may want to concentrate on medals, but there's more to it. We are part of the world, and we can contribute to a better world. And to contribute to a better world, we can only do it together. This is why the topic of this forum is building the future of basketball together. And there is one piece that is very much in my heart and that I want to share with you. We are and we will always be a team sport. Team means we do it together. Whether we are from different sides of the world, whether we are from a club, from a league, from a federation, whether we are on whatever side of the game we are, it's about teamwork. Basketball is a team sport. And as such, the values that a team sport brings, they are irreplaceable for us, for our lives, and the rest, as we used to say, are details. Now, I want to thank you, all of you, for being here once again, because only together, whether it is with the authorities, whether it is with our national federations, whether it is with leagues like the NBA, whether it is with organizers like those that organize Olympic Games or World Championships, whether it is with partners like the Nikes or Infront or Molten or others that are here. It's only with all of you that we can really bring basketball to the next level and make it the most popular sport in the world. That is why I want to conclude by thanking once again Mr. Mayor for hosting us here in this wonderful city where We will start the long journey with a first step here in Xi'an at the start of the Belt and Road Initiative and of the Silk Road, and where I hope the expertise and the experience and the skills that you will have to listen later here will bring you new thoughts on how we can drive basketball forward. And at the next summit, we'll define this even more, the next two summits, when we try to boil it down and make basketball the most popular sport in the world. We are basketball, and I thank you very much for your attention this morning.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you for getting us underway in such style and with some absolutely key messages about the future. You won't succeed without a game plan. You won't succeed unless you approach your tasks with energy and approach your task with passion. And you won't succeed without the assistance and cooperation of a whole bunch of other stakeholders. So in our first panel session, we're going to drill down into some of those themes and contrast and compare the experiences of operating national federations in 3 separate countries. We're going to look at the experience in